that will never die. Back in 1993, no one had any idea just how big it would become. Since it had modding tools released for it, the fans have been creating mods since that time, and many of those mods can actually surpass modern games. Now, if you'd like to know how to get these mods to work, just check the link here, as I have already done a tutorial. That particular tutorial was done back in 2010, and the method to get mods to work today is pretty much the same as it was back then. Now, the Doom Wiki defines the megawad as a wad that is 15 or more levels long, and the megawad we're going to be taking a look at today is UAC Ultra.
Initially, the UAC Ultra WAD was released in 2010 by two WAD creators known as Super Jamie and John, however one gets this particular appellation, 40-ounce Veil, and features custom texture work by the 40-ounce man himself, and two new monster models as well. Now, as you would expect, I am playing this with a game enhancement WAD, Project Brutality to be specific. If you want to see the review of that particular WAD, just click the link. Project Brutality, I find, works quite well with this WAD and gives you a great modern Doom experience. The WAD as a whole features a total of 11 massive levels to fight through. Now, UAC Ultra originally started back in 2008 as an experiment by John Veil to see if basic maps could appear to be better simply by using a number of brown textures. Thankfully, this project was abandoned after 4 maps were completed, and according to the Doom Wiki, it would appear that Veil was unsatisfied with them.
Now, if only a mini modern first-person shooter dev felt the same way.
The project would eventually be revived when Veil and Jamie noticed that they shared some common similarities in their mapping techniques. And further, according to the Doom Wiki, in polite conversation, they decided to work together. I don't know why the article is specific in that it was in a polite conversation, but oh well, I could have just assumed that they decided to work together after a death duel. But in any event, moving right along, after deciding to work together, the project would begin development in November of 2009 and would be announced to the gaming public in January of 2010. And at last released in March of that same year. The Doom Wiki mentions that John Veil stated in the UAC Ultra release thread on the Doom World forums that UAC Ultra 2 is very likely to happen in the future. And it would appear that UAC Ultra 2 has been partially completed as of 2013, with 1 episode being released.
So with that, let's take a look at the WAD already!
The WAD itself is of my favorite variety. It is a tech-based styled megawad, with all the various levels having numerous details, and they actually look like real futuristic locations. Level objectives are similar to what you would normally do in Doom, but you also have some that fall into a Quake 2 vibe as well, in that you have to shut down things and turn things on and things of that nature. The levels are vast and multi-tiered, with a large number of sub-areas throughout. The custom textures are quite exquisite as well, and everything has quite the gritty feeling to it. One minor annoyance is the fact that the textures of both the pump-action shotgun and double barrel do not actually work when you're using the Project Brutality enhancement WAD. Essentially, they snap back to their original counterparts. However, this is not a problem when played with Brutal Doom. One rather cool aspect of the game is that there are some areas where you will need a radiation suit to survive. This WAD is a good example of a modern Doom WAD, as it does things that the original Doom, and by extension Doom 2, could never do, with level architecture rivaling modern games in complexity. Unlike with a number of Doom 2 mega WADs, the game never really gets annoying, nor do the levels get too large and sprawling as to become boring. There is usually enough ammo to be found throughout the level to ensure that you don't have to drop back to fists, and there's always a good amount of health throughout as well. The WAD is also devoid of what I like to call bullshit moments. What is a bullshit moment, you might ask? Well, it's a moment where in a Doom WAD, you step into a room with 3 bloody cyber demons and no room to maneuver. A bullshit moment is a moment where you grab a key and 1,000 bloody imps spawn right on top of you. A bullshit moment is where the player instantly shouts aloud bullshit when you die due to developmental foolishness. The boss fights are very well laid out and feel like actual boss fights. Many a WAD, and to a certain extent later Doom levels in official games, like to have bosses just spawn as standard enemies, instead of giving them any build-up. Here, there are few instances of the Cyber Demon or Spider Mastermind, and when they do show up, they're given a well-designed arena to be fought in. There is one map in particular that is probably the hardest in the entire bloody WAD, Skagway. This level goes on for bloody ever, and there are many, many enemies to fight. But unlike with other WADs, this one actually gives you the tools you need to fight them. There is plenty of health and plenty of ammo, but just be sure to save often regardless. Really, in all reality, high levels of annoying or boring difficulty are one of the major issues with many a Doom WAD. There are just segments in many WADs that have no health or no ammo that are just so difficult and so annoying that one cannot help but turn on God mode and skip the bloody things. Here, thankfully, I had absolutely no need to cheat, as I found it to be tough but fair.
And so that is UAC Ultra, a WAD that has all the complexity needed to be its own bloody game. And had they released that back in the 90s, it would have been considered one of the greatest first-person shooters of all time. And so, I am GeneralLotz, wishing you good Classic Doom 3, and good Scythe 2, or whatever makes you happy.
If you liked my review of UAC Ultra and want to see more, please consider subscribing. And if you can, please consider supporting them on Patreon so that I can continue to bring such great content as WAD reviews.